Darkcast Network. Welcome to the dark side of podcasting.
Hi guys, I'm Courtney.
And I'm Lisa.
And we are the hosts of The Book of the Dead, a true crime podcast based out of New Jersey, where we tell you about the most obscure cases that you may have never heard of. So join us in the Book of the Dead library for another chapter of the Book of the Dead wherever you get your podcasts. Bye guys.
Devil is on his way. Devil is on his way, motherfucker. The devil gonna make you pay. Fall to your knees. Devil is on his way. Fall to your knees. Devil gonna make you pay. Fall to your knees. Devil is on his way.
Mountain Murders is an Appalachian true crime podcast. Some content may not be suitable for all listeners. Listener discretion is advised.
We say fuck a lot.
Hey y'all, welcome back to Mountain Murders.
I'm Heather.
And I'm Dylan.
Hey Dylan.
Hello Heather, how are you?
Hanging in there.
Hanging in there.
I will admit, I've had a rough week. Just a very emotionally draining week. I'm trying to get my shit together and pull myself out of the darkness.
Yes, you've been through a little bit, and I must say, like we were discussing earlier, whenever some of your biggest haters and enemies are your family.
Yeah, that's what's
it always makes for a fun time.
Incredibly fun. Yes. Yeah. Like frenemies, only they're blood relatives.
But you know what? They hate us because they ain't us. You know what I'm saying?
Dysfunctional people gonna dysfunction.
It's true. And if they're not hating on you, you're not doing anything.
Yeah, that's true. Oscar Wilde did say there is only one thing worse than being talked about, and that is not being talked about.
And I think that's actually a valid point, Mr. Wilde.
Okay, Dylan, are you ready to get into some true crime? We have a case out of Ohio, and it's a more recent true crime case.
Wow.
We may have some listeners familiar with this story. The only word I can use to sum up this case is shocking.
Really?
It is a shocking case.
Well, I'm fresh to this one. I have no idea. I'm going to learn with the listeners, and there's no time to waste. Let's just dive right in.
Get into it, Dylan. Sabrina Zunich was born October 27th of 1994 near Cleveland, Ohio, to parents Mark Zunich and Susan Edwards. Her parents never married, but battled drug and alcohol addictions together. The parents were often in trouble with the law, making Sabrina's home environment very unstable. Quote, at one point when she was still being bottle fed, to get her to sleep, they put vodka in her bottle.
That is I just don't understand. Even if you're high or you're not doing all the right things, I just don't know at what point you think that's okay to give a tiny baby, basically a toddler or whatever, alcohol. It's ridiculous.
It's not okay.
And it's scary for a home to have one addict in it, be it any family member or mom or dad. But when you have a couple together kind of swirling around in their own mess, it just really makes for just a bad situation.
Well, it does, because children wind up being neglected, oftentimes being abused.
Yeah.
It is very unstable. Well, as a result of this childhood, Sabrina had significant behavioral and mental health issues as a child, including diagnoses for ADHD, oppositional defiance disorder, bipolar, anxiety, and depression. So in total, Sabrina was taking 9 medications to manage her mental health conditions, which seems excessive for such a young person. I'm no doctor, but that's a lot of medication, right?
It is.
And that's a lot for an adult who has like significant medical issues to be taking 9 prescriptions, but a young person?
I would be very, very concerned if my young, child or whatever was taking 9 maintenance meds daily. I mean, honestly.
Yes. In 1984, her mother, Susan, pled guilty to grand theft for scamming the Cuyahoga County Welfare Department out of nearly $2,000. And she was sentenced to 6 months of prison in Marysville with 5 years of probation. In 1990, Susan Edwards furnished drugs to a group of 14 and 15-year-olds in Cleveland. Sentencing was delayed in that case because she was giving birth to Sabrina's half-sibling, and she was later charged with obstruction of justice. So by the time Sabrina was born, her father already had a handful of drug and alcohol-related impaired driving charges along with disorderly conduct arrests. When Sabrina was 16 months old, Mark was arrested for domestic violence. So you get a bit of a picture of what this child was born into.
It's chaos. I mean, it's just instability, a financially insecure home, which I think is a form of abuse personally. If you're wasting money on things that are unnecessary. And
look, Dylan, a lot of people grow up poor, and poverty's not the worst thing in the world. But when you're poor because of someone's bad choices, I mean, if your parents are working and busting ass and you're poor, they're doing the best they can do.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No, there's not.
Many of us who have grown up poor, below the poverty line. But it is another thing when your parents are dicking off and wasting money on drugs and alcohol, and then you're poor because of that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's some shit.
Or refuse to have any type of upward mobility.
Exactly.
Maybe find a little bit better job, or maybe, they don't want to work, 40 hours, 50 hours a week just to make ends meet. And those are things I feel like if you have a child, unplanned or unplanned, these are the things you have to do as a parent and an adult to make things better. And you got to do, like you said, there's many a clean, happy home that's right on the poverty line, and that's fine. You can have raised well-adjusted kids in those situations. But that's a great point. If you're barely making it because people are wasting money on drugs or refuse to work
because
properly,
of drugs,
or go in and out of
they're
court,
too busy getting high and doctor shopping and going to the ER for pains and aches that are manufactured to get drugs. I mean, these are the points where it becomes a problem for me.
I agree.
Right? Now, her parents didn't live together. So Sabrina kind of spent time back and forth. But when her mom was in jail, she would live with her dad. And she mostly grew up because of her mother's incarceration, living with her father and her grandmother in a small house on Regent Road in Wycliffe, Ohio. The home was known to law enforcement as they were called regularly, mostly related to Mark's drunken, often violent outbursts. He committed petty crimes like tearing down street signs, but also more serious domestic violence issues involving his baby mama, Susan Edwards.
Man, I mean, it's hard to respect someone, an adult especially, who's getting charges like disorderly conduct or public drunkenness.
It's just shitbird behavior.
I mean, it's immature. It's childish is what it is. I mean, suck it up.
It's trash.
You get
it's
at least,
trashy.
Yeah, it's very
Let's be
trashy.
honest. However, her grandmother's health declined just as Sabrina was entering puberty, becoming a young teenager. Sabrina was rebellious, which proved to be too much for her grandmother to handle. She's an elderly woman. She's got health issues. She's unable to control her granddaughter. Sabrina was getting into fights at school. She was stealing from her grandmother. At age 14, Sabrina entered the foster care system because no other relatives were willing to take the troubled girl in.
And that's so wrong to put this responsibility on the grandparents. I mean, raising kids is tough. We've recently had my granddaughters in the home, a 4-year-old and a 3-month-old, and we were like, shit, we forgot how hard children of this age are. And it's just, it's totally irresponsible and wrong to put all that responsibility on one of your parents who is elderly. And they just can't keep up with them. You know what I mean? They can't really relate to the children as good as the parent might. And it's just, I don't know. And that's a very common environment and situation when you have grandkids living with a parent or an aunt or something like that. They simply can't keep up with them, or they're tired and shit. They just want to relax. And the kids end up running amok, running roughshod over the grandparents.
Sabrina's family also had a history of mental illness. Her father was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia, but refused treatment for his problems, which I suppose explains maybe some of this disorderly conduct that we were talking about.
Well, that would make sense.
But I mean, you know, if you're doing these things because you're also a drunk, that's not okay either. Now, she was bounced from foster homes to group homes, but in 2011, she was finally placed with a loving family, Lisa and Kevin Knoefel. The same year, Sabrina's biological father died of a drug overdose. With the Knoefels, Sabrina showed signs of improvement soon after moving in. A special education student, Sabrina enrolled in school and she began earning better but still average grades, but they were far better than what she had been receiving.
See, I mean, it's funny. It's amazing how quickly children or young people react to structure, support, and just someone trying.
Her behavior changed as well. She expressed wishes to pursue massage therapy as a possible career path and got along well with her two foster sisters, Megan and Haley. Lisa Marie McIntosh was born May 20th of 1971 in Reynoldsburg, Ohio, to William and Rita McIntosh. Lisa had a daughter previously, but the relationship with the girl's father didn't work out. And around 2006, Lisa married Kevin Knoefel. Kevin also had a child from a previous relationship, a son. But together, the couple welcomed a daughter in 2009. Kevin worked as a truck driver, while Lisa was a social worker with the Department of Children and Family Services. She specialized in child abuse cases, often involving sexual abuse. Lisa had a passion for helping people, especially children. She really believed in Sabrina and wanted this girl to succeed. Kevin and Lisa decided to become foster parents, further demonstrating Lisa's compassion and commitment to helping children. From what I gather, Kevin and Lisa had fostered other children, but they had been very small, like very young children. So Sabrina would be the first teenager in their home.
Okay. So, you know, you always hear bad stories or bad experiences about the foster care system, but I've got to believe that for every bad experience, there's, 10 or 20 good families out there. It just really takes a special type of people to open their home up like that for all the right reasons and accept a child into their home. And I think people that do foster and adopt and things like that are very special people.
According to a friend of Lisa's, quote, when she had foster children, she treated them like her own. She made sure she went the extra mile to be a good parent. Lisa's first child was born in 1999, around when she first started the job. And during her first marriage to Nick Zanella, which ended in divorce in 2003. And then, as I mentioned, in 2006, she married Kevin. Kevin had been married between 92 and 97. His first child was born in 1993 and lived with his mother in Mentor. Now, according to records obtained from the Attorney General's office, Knoefel made nearly $51,000 annually driving a truck for Gordon Food Services based out of Cleveland, and another $19,000 working for National Express, a bus company. So by all accounts, the family was living what would be considered, well, at least then, a comfortable middle-class lifestyle.
Oh, yeah.
They had a really beautiful 3-bedroom home that sat on an acre by a bend in the Chagrin River. There was a trampoline in the yard and a big wooden one of those play sets. I mean, it appeared to be the home of a typical all-American family. And I will post some photos to accompany this story on Instagram, which you can find those at Appalachian True Crime. That is our Instagram handle. And you can see, I mean, it's a beautiful house.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
a really nice home.
Around $70,000 a year back then, that's pretty good money,
Yeah,
I mean, you're living pretty comfortably.
Now, people can't even make it on that, which is sad.
Don't even get me started.
Since she was close to turning 18, Sabrina had hoped the Knoefels would allow her to remain in their home until she was able to graduate from high school. That is one thing that the foster system has wrong is that these youths who are in foster care age out and are left with no support.
They're just cut loose.
But yeah, it's like, you're 18, sorry, you're fucked. And that's not okay. I mean, these young people should be getting support beyond that.
Yeah, so I guess I knew that, but didn't really think about it. So here you are, you're 18, and you've had, even if you're lucky enough to have a loving family, support, and all that, you're just done with them, and you have to leave their home. And now here you are, 18, and basically you had some semblance of a family, but then it's just gone, and support, and then you're just on your own.
Yeah, I mean, that's not okay.
That's not okay. There's got to be a better way to address that.
Lisa and Kevin were eager to see the young woman finish school, and so they were more than willing to agree to this compromise of allowing her to stay in the home past 18. However, Lisa started butting heads with Sabrina. I mean, at first things seemed great. They got along well. It was like a big, happy, blended family. But fairly quickly, Lisa noticed subtle changes in the girl's behavior. Sabrina became more aggressive with Megan, Lisa's daughter, and the two girls often were fighting over their little sister, the little sister Haley. Lisa noticed that Sabrina seemed to be very close to her foster father, Kevin Knoefel. Now, according to Sabrina, Kevin was the only person in the household who liked her.
Huh.
Sabrina began to resent Lisa's rules and restrictions. Finding it easier to talk to Kevin, she felt that Lisa treated her biological children better, further adding tensions. Lisa told her friends that she planned to force Sabrina to leave the home in January of 2013, when she turned 18. So in the beginning, she was fine with the girl staying there, but once this attitude kind of popped up and they're having a lot of problems, Lisa was like, yeah, I think maybe she needs to go.
Yeah.
This is not an okay situation.
I don't think that makes her mean or a bad person, because it's really tough when your teenage children, as they approach technical adulthood, I guess, start feeling their oats and, thinking they know everything and stuff like that. And I could imagine if a person had an option like, hey, I don't have to do this. You're not, really my kid, if you will, quote unquote. It wouldn't surprise me one bit that people would be like, hey, we were going to try this, but it's not working.
Well, I think stereotypically we have this idea that, a lot of teenage girls and their mothers butt heads. I mean, even if it's, kind of a stereotype, I think it happens. There enough that it's become kind of like this thing. And not everybody, some mothers and daughters are best friends and get along, but a lot of teenage girls and their mothers butt heads. Big time.
I've seen it. I've seen it in person.
So I'm thinking of that energy of your mother telling you what to do and you resent it when you're a teenager, but having this person who's not your parent, they're a foster parent, telling you what's up. You're probably looking at this person like, who are you to tell me what to do? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's even more amplified.
Right. And now, do you think it's almost natural in a case like this for her being close to the husband and the father, closer, if you will? Do you think it's a lot of times someone would maybe wonder if their relationship's maybe going too far, or something like that?
Kind of interesting you bring up that point, Dylan, because my next line is literally, Lisa was uncomfortable with the relationship her husband seemed to have with Sabrina. She began overhearing conversations that implied like a closeness that hadn't been there before. Now, there are, I think, some kids that are just naturally maybe closer to a father figure.
I think,
and I think maybe in this situation, if Sabrina's feeling like Lisa's kind of on her case, kind of, riding her, if you will, about school and rules and chores and everything, and maybe if Kevin's a little more laid back,
right,
she can relate a little more to him.
Right. And that could be all it is.
Or is it, Dylan?
But I think it's almost human nature to kind of in the back of your mind and the lizard part of your brain wonder, Are they, is their relationship completely appropriate?
Well, keep that in mind, Dylan.
Man, I'm on fire today.
On September 15th of 2012, law enforcement was called to the Knoefel residence. Kevin met the officers outside, saying he had contacted them regarding a domestic dispute with his wife, Lisa. The couple had argued over Megan's behavior. Kevin had grabbed his stepdaughter by the back of her neck, then escorted the girl to her bedroom while, holding her by the back of her neck.
I gotta say, I'm not going to say violent, but I don't know. That seems a lot. Even if you're having to do it or you feel like you're doing it to keep this situation from blowing up, that just seems, I don't know. I don't know what the word is I'm looking for, but it's kind of like you're manhandling
Yes.
the female, and I don't think I would be comfortable.
It's an aggressive move.
It's a very aggressive
For sure.
move. I think so.
Lisa was displeased with this reaction and started shouting at Kevin that he was choking Megan. He needs to move his hands from her neck. She's not okay with that. Kevin called law enforcement to document the incident. He told officers if there was ever a divorce, he didn't want Lisa to misconstrue the situation in a custody situation, possibly to retain full custody of their daughter, Haley, which is kind of an odd thing to say to police.
It is.
In light of a domestic issue.
It is. Obviously, you're contemplating divorce for you to even be thinking about that. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes. A few weeks later, the couple seemed to patch things up. They went on a weekend camping getaway with some friends. During this trip, Kevin confided in a male friend that he was considering filing for divorce. But then something disturbing happened. Kevin whipped out his phone and began showing the friend photos of his foster daughter, Sabrina. The photos were from a, quote, fashion photo shoot. He told the friend that Sabrina had been buying him underwear.
Oh, no.
Now, the friend, concerned, asked if Kevin was engaging in an inappropriate relationship with the teenager. When Kevin didn't deny it, his friend was appalled.
Yeah, I would be like, that's not okay. And a real friend would be direct about that. Like, hold on a second.
Well, I was going to say, I think your friends know better than to ever admit something. I mean, if they were up to something like this, they would know better than to tell you, because you are not going to react well to something like this.
No, I'm not going to be okay with that.
No, you are not a friend who's going to be like, good for you, bud.
No, I'm about to dial your punk ass out.
Yeah, no, you're probably going to call the police and launch an investigation of your own.
Because that's in my mind, that is molesting a child. Just because they're 16, 17, 18 years old, it's no different.
Well,
for
they're
me.
in your care. They're your
It's
foster
even, yeah.
child. I mean, that's not okay.
No.
At all. The relationship had blossomed in the spring of 2012. Kevin often drove Sabrina to school when he wasn't on the road. During those drives to school, the pair started having physical contact, like holding hands and touching, which eventually progressed to oral sex.
Oh, my God.
Sabrina had wanted to become a massage therapist, and Kevin had been experiencing some leg cramps. So the girl would massage Kevin for practice.
But my penis is cramping now.
And by the summer, the pair were having sexual intercourse. Kevin took Sabrina to the bank, where the pair set up a joint checking account without anyone else knowing.
Oh,
Now,
Lord.
this is some severe grooming.
Yeah. No doubt
And
about
it's
it.
disgusting.
It makes me want to puke.
In October of 2012, Sabrina's friends were surprised when the teenager asked them if they knew any hitmen who would murder her foster mother. Now, since most teenagers argue with their parents, their guardians, her friends thought Sabrina was joking, maybe just sort of blowing off steam. Autumn Pavlik, a friend of Sabrina's, noticed how Kevin and Sabrina made a lot of sexual jokes, and she thought it was a relationship that was, quote, too friendly and too close for comfort.
Now, I don't ever recall anyone saying, I wish my parents, I want to kill my parents or anything like that. And honestly, I think I would, be disturbed. I don't even know if I would classify that as, even if they were just talking crazy or blowing off steam. Just saying that or kidding around about that I would find disturbing coming from a friend of mine. Would you?
Yeah,
I mean, I get it. I would, I've been mad or heard kids carry on mad, like, oh, I wish they would just, go away or die, or, I'm just like, okay, but like joking about getting a hitman and stuff like that seems to be like a little much for me.
Meanwhile, Kevin placed a call to the caseworker handling Sabrina's foster case. He told the caseworker that he and Lisa were divorcing, but he wanted to know if he could get Sabrina placed with him. The social worker told him it might be a possibility. At the end of October, Sabrina turned 18. Lisa was beginning to suspect there was something happening between her husband and foster daughter. Lisa wanted Sabrina to find another place to live by the start of the new year. Now it's really like sealed the deal for her that these two something's up and this girl needs to find another place to live and this relationship is inappropriate.
So obviously her and her husband are having a rocky patch in their relationship. And it seems to me like she's pretty much convinced that some type of inappropriate relationship's happening here. Or at the very least, maybe she views it like, as long as she's in the mix, their relationship, they won't be able to work on their relationship and get better with each other.
And she's someone who works with troubled kids. She's seen the signs of sexual abuse. She's probably really tuned in.
Right.
To this kind of behavior. And I can't imagine the betrayal you would feel if you suspected your spouse having an affair with a child that you had taken in to the home to provide them a safe place to live, and then you find out your spouse is possibly doing something inappropriate. I mean, such a betrayal, but the worst kind of betrayal, because this isn't just adultery. I mean, this is a really disgusting, almost pedophile situation.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's like 5 kinds of gross. Not only is your spouse possibly cheating on you, which with anyone would suck, it hurts, usually, unless you just absolutely hate them and don't care about them at all, and molestation and the grossness of having taken this child in your home and watched, raise them. It's like people, I'm not okay with someone who is around a kid a lot when they're little, and then they grow up, and even if they meet years later, then having a relationship. I think if you're around any amount of time in a friend's house or your family or whatever around a child it's just gross to start dating them, even if it's 10 or 15, 20 years later.
Yeah, if I knew you when you were shitting your pants,
no,
I don't need to date you.
Well, for one, it says that you're quite a bit older than them, obviously. And it's just...
It's icky.
It's icky.
It's icky, Dylan. Let's just call it what it is. On November 15th, Kevin drove Sabrina to school. On the car ride, he cried.
Aww.
He was shed, little clown.
I'm still having cramps.
The man had a meltdown explaining to this teenager that he could no longer handle life with Lisa. I have to put my hand on my forehead. I'm so verklempt.
He's pouring all this out onto this kid. This young person,
but he
which
takes
is
it
so
a step
gross.
further that not only can he just can't handle life with his wife Lisa, but that she needs to die.
Really?
Sabrina, being naive, she's easily manipulated by Kevin. She said, quote, "He was my friend and my father. Kevin was there to catch me because he never judged me and he always made me feel wanted," said Zunich in an interview with Snapped. Sabrina offered to murder Lisa herself, and Kevin didn't stop the teen. Instead, he went home and packed his suitcase, then headed out for Michigan. Kevin had threatened suicide several times, saying he needed to get Lisa out of his life. Feeling like her lover might take his own life, Sabrina felt she needed to take action and, quote, protect him.
So here he is. He's winding her up.
He's grooming her in multiple ways.
He's sending her.
Not only is he grooming her sexually, he is grooming her to commit murder.
Yeah, and then he's going to pack a bag and be in, somewhere else and have a nice fat alibi, knowing damn well this thing could blow up, but I guess in his mind, it'll fall back on the foster daughter.
Bingo.
And the wife will be out of the way, and he's good to go.
It's evil.
What a damn...
It's evil.
Oh, my God. All he needs is like a cat to pet and like a really cool chair to swivel in and turn around petting the
Oh,
cat.
my God, he's like a movie villain, like a Bond villain.
It's like a Bond villain.
During an argument, he's not handsome enough to be a Bond villain, trust me. This guy looks like a doober. During an argument with Megan, Sabrina pulled a knife and threatened her.
Yeah, we're done. You're getting out of my house.
This is another reason why Lisa's like, yeah, this girl needs to not be in my home. Megan said after this, she knew it was all downhill with her foster sister, that their relationship was irrevocably broken. Sometime after midnight on November 12th of 2013, Megan woke up to, I'm sorry, this was 2012, not 2013. Megan woke up to the dogs barking and she heard screaming. The screams were coming from her mother's bedroom, so the teenager jumped into action. She ran into her mother's room, and that is where she discovered Sabrina on top of her mother, Lisa, stabbing the woman. Megan tried to drag Sabrina off, but failed to do so. Megan ran to the phone to call 911. She told the operator, quote, "My sister is stabbing my mother to death. She's going to die."
Oh, my God.
This 911 call is so frantic and heartbreaking. I watched the Snapped episode about Sabrina Zunich. Listening to this 911 call, it gave me goosebumps.
Yeah,
I can't handle those calls.
No, I've got to say,
They are very troubling to hear.
There for a while, some series, podcasts use that quite a bit, and the 911 calls and stuff like that, or just witness statements from their mouth recorded. And I just can't. I figured out I just can't. And I think it's voyeuristic, and I think it's exploitive to listen to those calls when people are in their darkest, most frantic, scariest moment.
Well, there's a lot of ethical discussion in true crime, and a lot of people think that we shouldn't, there shouldn't be podcasters and there shouldn't be true crime shows.
Right.
Just across the board, period. You shouldn't talk about these things. But I do think when you get into the ethics of true crime, for me, there is a line when it comes to playing like these incredibly emotional 911 calls. Like that's something we don't really do here on Mountain Murders. And
No.
we've made a conscious decision that we won't because of what you're saying.
No, and I typically will avoid listening to them anytime I come across it in something because I just can't handle it.
Yeah, I can't either.
I mean, when you got a damn 4 or 5-year-old or 6-year-old calling talking about mommy's dead and stuff, I just can't. I mean, I can't do it. And I don't think I have a right to listen to that. I think it's personal, and I think now it's fine to discuss what was, the content of it because it might be relevant to the story or, the case or court or whatever. But I think it's wrong.
Fairly soon, a police officer arrived at the house. He said, quote, "I pulled in the driveway and I saw a young female exit the front door and tell me that I better hurry up, that her sister was stabbing her mother to death."
Oh, my gosh.
This officer will testify later. He went down the hallway and ordered the attacker to come out with her hands raised. She did. He said this young girl was bloody from, quote, "head to toe, sobbing, holding a 12-inch knife that she had used to kill her foster mother." He secured this teenage girl, and took her to another bedroom.
I was going to say,
So
unfortunately.
I'm assuming he cuffed her, right? Lisa's body was found in the master bedroom. She was covered in cuts and wounds, 178 stab wounds.
Shut up.
178.
So basically, the whole time, once she discovered her stabbing her, to call 911,
She did not let up.
she didn't stop the whole
Sabrina
time.
did not let up.
I don't believe I've ever heard a total higher than that of stab wounds.
It was overkill.
It blows my mind.
It's like berserker mode.
Yeah.
Rage, primitive animalistic type of rage. Just unbridled rage.
I just feel like there's something heinous about stabbing someone over and over.
She had many defensive wounds on her hands. It was obvious that Lisa had fought for her life, but she couldn't be saved. The knife had been twisted into her body so many times, the blade had nearly broken during this blitz-style attack. And that's the thing, Dylan. Sabrina was stabbing the knife into her and then twisting.
Oh my
with
gosh.
each stab.
Just horrible wounds. Just horrible. Red, ragged, jagged. Oh my gosh.
The Knoefels' daughter, little Haley, was only about 4 years old at the time. She was discovered hiding in her mother's closet. Sabrina was taken into custody, and it was determined that she was in shock. Investigators were shocked too. What was the possible motive in this crime? They were blown away. Investigators began questioning everyone who had a connection to the family, especially those who knew Lisa and Sabrina well. Law enforcement also noted Kevin's unusual behavior. When they called him on the phone, he seemed very nonchalant that his wife had just been murdered. When he returned from Michigan, Kevin didn't seem concerned, again, that his wife has been brutally murdered. He even asked if he could see the crime scene. Officers advised against it. They warned him, this is going to be very troubling for you. It's horrific. But he insisted.
Okay.
Now, Dylan, would you want to see, I'm your spouse. If something were to happen to me, I was brutally murdered in our home, would you demand to see the crime scene?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
I wouldn't want that to be some of my last memories and images of you.
To be honest,
you.
It would be so, I don't even know the word, overwhelming to deal with the fact that your loved one was murdered.
Right.
I wouldn't even want to know the details.
I wouldn't want the visuals.
I would not. I don't even want to know the details of it.
No.
It's too nightmarish and horrible. I just don't even think my brain could process it.
If you unfortunately discover your deceased spouse in that state, then obviously you got to carry that with you. And I always think how terrible that is for whatever family member that happens to find someone like that. So to go out of your way almost to do that is very odd.
Oh, he insisted.
And
not only did he insist to see the crime scene, Dylan, but he asked for all the details of the murder. He wanted to know every grisly, gruesome detail.
I've got to imagine that's throwing up red flags for investigators.
Well, they thought it was odd for sure. The following day, when loved ones and friends converged on the Knoefel household, they were stunned to find Kevin unfazed. Quote, I can't say how a person should appear when their wife's been brutally murdered, but he just didn't appear to be fazed by it. Lisa's friend Erica Gator told Snapped Behind Bars. Kevin appeared almost happy his wife was gone. He asked friends to close down Lisa's social media accounts and her email, so he didn't have to respond to any of the messages. Now, that'd be like the last thing I was thinking about, would be to shut down your Facebook account so I didn't have to respond to your messages.
If you don't want to or can't,
then just don't.
Just don't look at it. I mean, it's not that hard. You got plenty of other stuff to think about. You know what I mean? I mean, that would be, like you said, way down the list.
That would be very insignificant for me. I wouldn't think about that at all.
No, but it's obvious what he's doing. He's go ahead and creating a wall around himself, and he knows, well, he sounds like a dumbass anyway, but maybe he's thinking the less I talk to people and stuff, I won't, have to lie, tell a bunch of lies. So he's just trying to maybe, and he's probably clearing her shit out. I mean, I can imagine he's probably like packing her stuff up. I mean, this guy.
Kevin drove to the Lake County Jail where he asked to see Sabrina. When he was denied the opportunity, the man reportedly slammed his fists down on the desk, causing a scene. He yelled, I am her father. The officer in charge arranged for Kevin to be added to Sabrina's visitation list, but did not allow him inside. After Lisa's funeral, Kevin, he was champing at the bit to get his hands on some life insurance money. Like immediately finds out his wife's dead, starts calling the insurance companies. Now, we hear this a lot in true crime. To play the devil's advocate, and I don't want people to be like, oh, you're a murder apologist. No. I'm just pointing out. Sometimes people do call insurance companies because they need that money for burial expenses, for funeral expenses.
Right.
Because most people don't have $10,000 to $12,000 just hanging out to pay for a funeral.
No.
And let's be honest, most people who are in our age group and younger, they don't have pre-planned, they don't have a cemetery plot. They haven't pre-planned for funeral expenses. So, you know, he could have needed the money for a funeral, but, you know, he's kind of a piece of shit. So let's be realistic. I'm just saying.
But
it's
also
not always such a red flag.
No, it's not. Just like someone lawyering up when they're, you know, questioned by police is not always a red flag. Some people say it's the right thing to do so you don't get railroaded or, you know, anything like that by investigators. But also, you know, you could have lost half your income into the household if you're, you know, both working adults. So, I mean, not only are they gone, their income's gone, you know, everything's gone. So, I mean, some people, it could be like, hey, I need to line this up now because I need the money. Like you said, we got burial, we have things to do.
I have a mortgage to pay this month. I don't have the money.
You might not, it might take you a while to adjust, you know, your job and your expenses. So, I mean, yeah, it's not a total red flag, but mixed in with all the other dumb stuff he's doing, yeah, it's just one more red flag.
Well, after Lisa's funeral, Kevin did receive insurance payout of $785,000. But people were saying he just couldn't wait to collect it. Right after Lisa's murder, he began hounding the insurance company about the payout, calling them like multiple times a day.
I'm surprised they paid that quick, to be honest with you, in a situation like this.
In spring of 2013, Kevin took the money to Florida where he bought a house and several cars. He took flying lessons. He paid off the mortgage on their Willoughby Hills home, which had fallen into foreclosure at the time, but this is the home he shared with his wife. So he pays that off. He buys a house in Florida. He's taking flying lessons.
She'd want me to have his cars.
He's buying fancy cars.
He seems to be a distraught husband.
And he did remain in their Ohio home with his mother and their young daughter, Haley. Who would stay in this house after their wife was murdered? I could not live in a house where you were murdered.
I would not even want to go back there even one time to get my stuff.
No. Kevin was awarded $47,210 from the Attorney General's Ohio Victims of Compensation Program on behalf of his young daughter because he's the guardian of her estate. The young daughter, Haley, received this sum of money from this Victims Compensation Fund. Kevin applied to be the legal guardian of his dead wife's mentally challenged sister on May 13th in the Lake County Probate Court. When Lisa died, her sister, a 39-year-old Paynesville resident with Turner syndrome, had no more adult family left, no next of kin. Kevin was granted a legal guardianship of Laura, but not her estate, on June 14th. Several days after Kevin's August indictment, a new form was filed. Nick Zanella, Laura's former brother-in-law, would eventually apply to take over guardianship.
Well, now, do you think that's out of the goodness of Kevin's heart, or do you think it's just another chunk of cash he's trying to get at?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not really sure because he's not entitled to her money.
Yeah, but maybe that's what he was trying to do,
Possibly.
But that's not what he got done.
I don't know. It's a good question, Dylan. A lawsuit filed by Zanella on September 5th to recover life insurance money on behalf of his and Lisa's 13-year-old daughter alleged that Kevin Knoefel also used the funds to buy a boat. It was the life Kevin couldn't afford to lead before. Lisa was worth more to her husband dead than alive.
She'd want me to have that boat and them cars.
Well, how shitty that you get this life insurance payout and this woman has 2 children, but instead you're going to take the money and you're going to buy yourself a bunch of shit and you're going to be like, fuck her other kid.
Yeah, you didn't even put, I mean, you should at least took $100,000 or more per kid and put in a trust or something for them to help them when they got, turned 18 or 21.
Super asshole move.
Yeah, he's a greedy bastard.
Take all the money.
Yeah.
Information started to come out, painting a bleaker picture of Sabrina's life after leaving the group home. Now, a friend had told Cleveland Scene that the girl was using hard drugs. So as she's moved into the Knoefel home, she's coming out of a situation where she's been using hard drugs. And this friend seemed to suggest that perhaps Sabrina was still using drugs. This friend said Kevin often gave her money, which Sabrina used to purchase meth. Now, her friend claimed that Sabrina would try to, quote, earn money on Craigslist. He thought drugs were the issue, And he had no idea that his friend was involved in a sexual relationship with her foster dad. So this friend's basically saying when he found out she had killed her foster mother, he thought it was because she was high on drugs, because she had been using methamphetamine.
Well, that could explain the
And had been
overkill
trying
and the
to
frantic.
earn money on Craigslist to buy drugs.
What does that mean?
Which I'm assuming she was doing sex work.
Well, maybe she had a I'll move your couch business, and she'd go and move people's couches for them
Sure, Dylan.
on Craigslist.
Sure. While in custody, Sabrina began to sing like a bird. Now she's behind bars. Her lover has abandoned her, and he took the money and run, like the Steve Miller Band song.
And honestly, that's why I am surprised this has moved so quickly as far as with the insurance and things like that, because a lot of times if someone's killed, murdered by anyone, especially someone in the household, all that, they wait till the entire investigation is done before they'll pay out. So, yeah, that's very odd to me.
Sabrina told investigators the whole story, Dylan. According to the teenager, the murder had been Kevin's idea. They had begun a sexual relationship. Kevin had groomed Sabrina, then manipulated her into killing his wife. He told Sabrina they would use the insurance money to buy a house and start a new life together. Kevin promised to use funds from Lisa's death to pay for Sabrina's college education and told the girl she could help raise Haley. And according to everyone, Sabrina was truly just like loved this little girl.
So he's going to pay for her education, but not set an education fund up for his children.
For his stepdaughter.
For his stepdaughter.
Sabrina accepted responsibility for carrying out the murder plot, but wanted law enforcement to know that Kevin had been the mastermind. It was determined during Sabrina's confessions that Sabrina had engaged in discussions to murder Lisa while she was asleep in the bedroom, that Sabrina was worth more dead than alive because of the life insurance payout. That Sabrina, she stated that, this is something we discussed, that Lisa's we're better off with her dead.
That's a big payout. That's a rather large life insurance for most, standard people.
Yeah,
almost
I think
$1
it was
million.
like multiple policies.
Oh,
I
even
think she
okay.
had several policies that paid out, but that was the total of the policies.
Okay.
Sabrina agreed that she would stab Lisa to death, and that Kevin directed her as to the specific knife to use and had demonstrated how to twist the knife into Lisa's body.
It's almost like he wanted it to be as excruciating and horribly painful while she was being killed.
Kevin had discussed with Sabrina how to either make Lisa's death look like a burglary by going through her jewelry, or how she should cut her own legs to make it look like she killed Lisa in self-defense. And Kevin also discussed with Sabrina that if she were caught by police, she should say she didn't remember what happened and should claim insanity. Because she takes a lot of medications and has a history of mental illness.
If there was still some, she was using meth, indeed using meth during this period, that could explain the fact that she might have thought all this big plan up, but she didn't execute it at all. She kind of just lost it. And maybe in her meth-addled mind, she thought she was being like sneaky, clever, and pulling off some kind of a plan.
We don't know for sure if she was on drugs, Dylan. I'm just saying.
Well, no, I know.
One of her friends said she was using drugs before, and as she was making her way into the foster family situation, as far as he knew, she was still using drugs.
Right.
So when he heard this murder had taken place, his first thought was, oh, she was high and killed this woman.
Well, that's what
So I don't know for sure.
Right.
That was just suggested.
But I could explain why there just seemed to be absolutely no real plan, and she just kind of lost it. And
Possibly.
she didn't cover her tracks. She didn't try to do anything. She was found on top of her, stabbing her by police. So
No, well, it was by the teenage daughter.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, it was not by police.
But she was still doing it. She's dead to rights. There's no way she didn't.
Well, no, the police
trick
found her,
anybody.
and she's got the knife in her
Right.
hand, and she's covered in blood.
It's not a very good plan.
No, but she's young,
Well, that's true.
and she's young. She's troubled. she's not really thought this out?
No, these murder for hire, which this isn't technically hire, but these, gosh, what would you call it when you talk someone else to killing someone for you? They're always goofy like this, and they never, ever work.
Kevin had suggested staging the scene to look like a robbery had taken place. However, things fell apart when Megan awakened to the sounds of her mother's screams. While there was no evidence confirming a physical relationship had taken place between Kevin and his foster daughter, investigators thought her story was credible. On the day of the murder, Sabrina and Kevin had exchanged text messages. It is said around 2,000 texts were sent between the two in the month before the murder. He sent his wife maybe 200 texts compared to the 2,000 he sent to his foster daughter.
So he's texting his foster daughter 10 times more than his wife.
Although the FBI was unable to recall the messages from Sabrina's phone, it did show the close nature of Sabrina and Kevin's relationship.
Well, yeah, if you see as soon as they both wake up, text in the morning, text in the afternoon, I mean, just text all day long, that's a lot. That's a lot of text, I think. 2,000, right, in a month? That's quite a bit.
We probably text that much.
Well, we probably do, but we're husband and wife.
Are we?
Yeah.
I think that's a lie.
That's true. I got the papers.
I don't believe it.
I got
would
papers
never
on this.
consent to this relationship. Look, detectives needed a smoking gun. They asked Autumn, Sabrina's friend, if she would make controlled phone calls to Kevin in hopes they would be able to get a taped confession. He said little about the crime over the phone. Then Autumn, because this didn't really work, she went to Kevin's house wearing a wire. He didn't admit plotting the murder or having sex with Sabrina, but he didn't deny it either when Autumn's asking about it.
Yeah, see, that right there is a problem because most normal people would be offended by being by you alluding to either of those, either that I killed or wanted my wife killed or was having an inappropriate situation or sexual relationship with my foster daughter. You would be indignant. You would be mad. You wouldn't just be like, say nothing. You would deny it. Definitely, I would think.
9 months after Lisa's murder, Kevin Knoefel was finally arrested on August 9th of 2013 and charged with conspiracy to commit aggravated murder, complicity to aggravated murder, along with sexual battery. Sabrina pled guilty to aggravated murder, and she became the main witness in the trial of Kevin Knoefel. Kevin's trial began in May of 2014. The majority of the case was built around Sabrina's testimony. Other witnesses were able to confirm the pair had a sexual relationship. Sabrina testified that Kevin had shown her how to kill Lisa, where to stab her, depending on where the woman was positioned in bed. In total, so Lisa, who was 5'8" and weighed about 150 pounds, she was stabbed 62 times in the head and neck with inch-deep lacerations to the face and some wounds as deep as 3 inches into her neck.
Jeez.
Her torso had 27 stab wounds, which punctured her chest and lungs. She had 89 stab wounds on her arms and legs. Her left pinky and right thumb were nearly severed by these injuries.
With like a big butcher knife, a 12-inch knife. That's a fairly large knife.
Sabrina's lengthy testimony detailed the affair, the murder plot, and the night of the killing. Kevin's defense pointed to the fact there was no evidence connecting him to the crime. They tried discrediting Sabrina as a witness. They pointed to her mental health history. She had been taking medications since the age of 6. Sabrina had engaged in violent behavior before living with the Knoefels, fighting in school, and she had made threats to others previously. And they brought up the fact that she had pulled a knife on her foster sister.
Well, I mean,
I guess in the weeks leading up to the murder.
Yeah, I guess any decent defense attorney would kind of come at this angle. So basically, they're just she killed her.
She's
lost
a troubled young person.
And she's trying to take me down with her.
And she has falsely imagined this scenario, and she's trying to, throw whatever at the wall and see if it sticks. That's their defense, basically. However, Kevin's attorneys were stunned when jurors delivered the news. They had really thought Kevin would be found not guilty based on a lack of evidence. The prosecution's entire case hinged on Sabrina Zunich, who they felt was unreliable. But the jury deliberated for 9 hours on June 11th, 2014, finally reaching a guilty verdict. So a month later, Kevin was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility for parole after 30 years. Sabrina received the same sentence. Now, Kevin has filed an appeal in the conviction, but I don't have information on how that went. Sabrina apologized to Lisa's loved ones and appeared to be remorseful during the sentencing phase. She is currently at the Dayton Correctional Institute. In 2042, she will be eligible for parole at the age of 47.
Wow. So, having dug into this, dug through it, into all the deets, you think they got it right?
I do.
That he talked her into this, he set her up to kill his wife.
I do.
Yeah.
I think he took a very vulnerable, troubled young woman and he victimized her all over again.
Yeah.
By manipulating her and getting her to commit this act.
He weaponized her, essentially.
He did. And he took her years of neglect and abuse and struggles, and the fact that this was a desperate young woman who was looking for approval, looking for love. She wanted a family. She wanted like a father figure, and he exploited this person at every turn. And I think he's a fucking monster.
Yeah, so he grooms her, and he starts sexual...
No, I'm not saying she doesn't share a responsibility for her actions, because she chose to murder this woman.
Right.
Just cold-blooded murder in her bed, in the safety of her own bedroom, in the middle of the night. This woman who had taken her into this house. So I don't feel sorry for Sabrina in that capacity, because she committed this crime. But I do think without Kevin's manipulation, this wouldn't have happened.
I was going to say the same thing. Minus him in the situation, it likely wouldn't have happened. So first he grooms her and starts this intimate relationship where she's getting what she perceives as love from him. And then sets it up like, if she doesn't go away, I can't keep having this relationship with you.
We can't be together.
Right.
We're going to buy a house and have
We
a
can't do
family.
it.
We'll raise my daughter like she's our child.
Yeah.
I mean, he's like selling this young woman on this dream of a perfect life that she's never had. She's never had a home. She's never had stability. I mean, it's really disturbing.
That's one of the more monstrous parts of this, because I think he knew what he was doing and possibly the entire time.
Yeah, no, he's a manipulative piece of shit. Like, fuck this guy.
Jesus. How do you do that? How do you lay next to someone knowing that you want them dead? I mean, seriously.
Don't ask me. You would be shocked by the results. I'm just kidding. I don't mean you.
Wait a second.
Hey, I'm just saying, we've all got a bad ex, right? Now, a judge awarded $6.2 million to Megan and Haley in a wrongful death suit against Sabrina and Kevin. She's going to be responsible for paying $5 million, while 1.2 has been ordered from Kevin. Wow. They're likely never going to get this money.
Yeah, they may have liquidated what limited assets he had at the time when he was arrested. They might have recovered some of that in that form. But yeah, I mean, what are they going to do? Give them their 26 cents a day? They're make it prison for working whatever job,
Maybe.
I'm like, look, I'm going to get that 26
Well,
cents.
no, he has an estate. He owns 2 homes.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Multiple cars.
Surely they may have liquidated all that.
I'm sure they did.
Yeah, and they should.
The
kids should be the only person getting any money from out of any of this.
Well, he certainly shouldn't be entitled to any of the insurance money.
No, he deserves to be beat about the head with about a 2-inch round rod, a stick.
Like a crowbar?
No, like a big wood dowel stick.
Oh gosh, like a caning stick?
Yeah, like the one that you're supposed to be able to beat your wife with on the courthouse steps, no bigger than your thumb, according to the law.
The rule of thumb.
The rule of thumb. I just don't get it. I seriously don't. Just get a divorce. Get a freaking divorce. Or go take off, run away, go somewhere. But just, no, that didn't work at all. He had his little few months. He thought it worked for him, And that's how it always goes. The shittiest people, they get to think they win for a minute. And then eventually, it all, as they say, it all comes out in the wash. And you get yours. Your just desserts, Black Bart.
Well, let's hope that actually happens
to
most people.
It will one way or the other.
No, this whole story, I mean, again, at the beginning I told you, it's just shocking. It's a very shocking story to think of this this poor girl, and I can feel very sorry for her childhood, her life growing up. I mean, it sounds like she just didn't have a damn chance.
No, I agree. And unfortunately, she ended up in the presence of a manipulative monster. And, if he was to ever get out of jail or anything like that, then, maybe the foot of justice needs to come in with some ass kickery.
But, she did commit the crime. She willingly murdered this woman. But again, I feel like she probably wouldn't have committed such a violent crime had she not been coerced.
No.
And Kevin had instigated it.
I agree. My gosh. Are you going to try to set up somebody to kill me? Because they better come hard, bud, because I'm ready. I'm always ready for danger.
This is not going to work out for a number of reasons, Dylan.
Okay.
First and foremost, despite you being you, I love you.
Oh,
okay.
Thanks. So you don't want to kill me. That's step one.
No, I like having you around.
Oh, see, I'm worth more alive.
And who is going to podcast with me?
It's true.
I won't have a co-host.
Who's going to make you late sometimes?
Well,
no, I'm working on doing better with that. Well, that's good to know, honey, because I'm not planning on.
Secondly, Dylan, to find someone willing to do this for me, that's going to take a certain amount of socialization on my part.
Ah, yes.
Right? And I don't want to leave the house, and I don't want to talk to people. And we know that finding a hitman on Craigslist is not an option. Right?
No.
So I wouldn't even have an avenue to find someone.
It seems like you put thought into this. A, I love them and I want them to be around, which is important. A, I think. B, it'd be a lot of trouble to find somebody. And I think your social anxiety and stuff might actually stop you from meeting various potential hitmen, and that makes sense.
No, it's true. Third of all, I'm very cheap.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, I like to save my money to buy expensive boots that I'm never going to wear.
Yeah.
But they're shiny and they're, platformed and they're black and they got like buckles on them.
If you did wear them, they'd be badass.
Yeah, or they got spikes or something, I'm just like, I'm going to buy this frivolous pair of $200 boots so they can sit in my closet like a museum. I could just admire them, but I don't go anywhere, so I don't wear them. So I'm not going to spend my ridiculous shoe money on a hitman.
So you can pay him in boots.
No.
Goth boots.
Hell no.
Never.
Those are my boots, okay? So see, there's a lot of reasons. Plus, you don't really have any life insurance anymore.
Yeah, I know. So that's the main reason.
Useless. I mean, so you're worth more to me alive than you are dead.
You got to keep it like that. I'm telling you. If you're ever wondering about anything out there, you make sure you're worth more alive than dead.
Plus, okay, I mean, I can go on and on about all the reasons why I don't want to kill you. We went out last night to celebrate a friend's birthday.
We did.
So I was kind of forced to socialize for a brief period. And I can tell you, Dylan, that having gone out in public and seeing what's available to me as a single woman in this community.
Right.
Yeah, I don't want none of that.
So the lack of proper candidates, possible suitors, and dating scene.
I am with the best option available to me.
You see that right there?
At the moment, see?
You don't have to be the best. You just have to be better than them. That's the whole point right there.
And maybe I choose you.
I'll choose you too, and I only have one reason that I'm not going to hire someone to kill you is because I love you and I don't want you to die.
Oh, I have another reason.
Oh my God.
Okay, I'm not cut out for jail.
Ah, yes.
Right? It seems dirty.
Yes.
And I don't like dirty. It makes me feel very anxious if it's nasty. I can't deal with dirty, and I don't want a roommate. And I hear that you have to like take a shit in front of your roommate, your cellmate. That seems horrible. Like, so there's multiple reasons why. I don't want to eat a bologna sandwich off the floor when somebody kicks my ass and steals my fruit cocktail, and they throw my food on the floor in jail. I'm not cut out for this.
Man, I tell you what.
Okay, I'm just not.
There's a lot of, it's cold. You got thin blankets. There's just no comfort.
You're safe.
Okay.
That's what I'm trying to say.
All right. So,
Marked safe from your wife.
I'm going to go on some social media platform right now and mark myself safe from a murder for hire plot by my wife. I'm safe. And it seems like I will be around in the midweek. I'll still be here in the middle of the week. And so we cannot wait to bring everyone a nice recap of true crime news.
Okay.
Yeah. And thank you for this one. I had not heard about this one at all.
Okay. Well,
and
I'm glad that I was able to educate you on something new and bring a bit of awareness to this case.
Yeah, I agree.
Lisa deserved so much better than what happened to her.
She really did.
And her children deserve better than this situation. It's so sad. It's really tragic.
It really is. And it's just terrible. And it should have never happened. And it's just one more case of the terrible shit humans do to each other. So, all righty.
All right, Dylan, you have a good night.
I'm going to have a great night.
Bye.
Bye.